Hello everyone, so this is the second part of the Quiz 2 Unit 2 review. So 13 and 14 are basically, we're going to find the second derivative, and to do that, we're going to do product rule. So in this case, the derivative of sine is cosine times cosine x. Forgot the x, let me put the x, times cosine x, plus, it's going to be the derivative of cosine, which is negative sine x times sine x. Now we're going to find the second derivative of all of this. So first of all, we're going to do the product rule of this and then this. Okay, so cosine, it's going to be negative sine x times cosine x plus, same thing, negative sine x times cosine x. Now here we're going to do negative, it's going to be negative cosine x times sine x plus, it's going to be, in this case, cosine x times negative sine x. Now, we could obviously regroup all of this. So it would be negative sine x times cosine x minus sine x times cosine x. Wait, don't forget. Yeah, where's my minus sine x times cosine x, and same thing, minus sine x cosine x. And since all of these are the same, we could combine it into negative 4 sine x cosine x. Okay, number 14. This one's going to take a lot more space, and so therefore, I'm just going to come back to it because it's going to be a longer process. So let's just get 15, 16, and then the calculator one's done, and then we can always come back. Okay, 15, it says write the equation of the line tangent to the function at the given x value. First thing that I would do with this problem, first I would get the y value, that's in this case, x is equal to 0, right? So I'm going to plug in e to the power of 0 plus 1 over cosine of 0, here, cosine of 0, so e to the power of 0 is 1, plus 1 over cosine of 0 is basically going to be 1, just a second, yeah, it's going to be 1, so it's basically 2, 2 is our y value, or in this case 0, 2. Now I'm going to try to get the derivative of this equation. So let's do that. And in this case, we're going to use the quotient rule. So it's going to be low dh, which is cosine x, times the derivative of e to the x, which is, I'm just going to put parentheses here. It's going to be x, it's going to be e to the x times 1, which I'm not going to write, and then it should be, that's it. And then it's going to be minus high DL, so it's going to be ex plus 1 parentheses, and I'm just going to do the derivative of cosine x is negative sine x over cosine x squared, and so that e to the x could come to the front, and it would be cosine x minus, and you know what, actually, since we're plugging in 0, I feel like it would be more convenient. So cosine x parentheses 0 times e to the 0 minus parentheses e to the 0 plus 1 minus sine x to 0. So basically what's going to end up happening is I'm multiplying here, right? And sine of x is 0. So this whole side's going to cancel. I can't forget putting all of this over. cosine squared of 0. Now, this top portion is going to be 1. And this bottom portion is also going to be 1. So my m is 1. Now let's just put it into an equation, which is basically going to be y minus 2 is equal to x. Because it would be 1 parentheses x minus 0. And that basically equates to y minus 2 is equal to x. Number 16. Given the h of x is equal to, so I could see right here, there's going to be product rule. Right here, that's product rule. And this is my graph of f of x over here. And I have my equation. So find the equation of the tangent line at x is equal to 1. So, like I did before, I'm going to get my, I'm going to try to get all my basic values, such as, what's my f of x? F of x at 1 is going to be, it looks like -1 on the graph. And then the derivative of -1, it appears to be -2. Yes, -2. Now let's do g of x. So our g of x is basically 2, and 1 squared is just 1 minus, so I'm not going to write that, minus 1. So it's basically 1. And our g of the derivative of g, which would be 2, which would be 4x minus 1, or plug in 1, so it would just be 3. 4 times 1, 4, 4 minus 1 is 3. Now I'm going to go back to our getting the derivative of h of x. So we got our values. So let's first get the y value. So basically this is going to be simple. It's just going to be taking the f of x times the g of x, which is -1 times 1, which is basically going to give our coordinate point of 1, -1. And now let's just do the product rule, which is basically saying the derivative of f of x, which is -2, times the g of x, which is going to be 1, plus it's going to be the derivative of g of x, which is 3, times -1, which is the f of x. And now that gives us -2 plus -3. -5 is our slope. So now we can put this into a point slope equation, which is going to be y plus 1 equals -5 parentheses x minus 1. Now the calculator ones are pretty similar. Here, let me pull it to the side. There we go. So this first one is saying at what value of x is our line tangent to this x sine x, right? So it's basically saying if we have a graph, and this is, let's assume this is my x-axis, so it's saying it wants to go parallel. So the slope of this equation is going to be 0, right? So therefore, I'm going to put in my y1 as 0, and then do enter. Oh, it didn't show up. Okay. That is interesting, because it should have showed up, but it didn't. There we go. There we go. Now you can see the calculator. So it's basically saying I'm going to put in my y1 as 0, and my y2 is basically going to be the derivative of this equation, which is math 8. That gets us that. And so I'm going to put in x sine x and make sure that the mode is radians. And yeah, so now I'm going to graph this. I'm going to zoom in. And it's saying from 0 to 6. So the 2 points are at this point, which I could do. There's 2 ways to do this. One is second intersect, or number 2, which is 0. So I'm going to go with 0 because that's going to be easy. I'm going to put enter. That's my first value. I'm going to press enter. That's my second value. And my intersection. Oh, show up that nicely. Here, let me redo it. Enter. Enter. And my 0 is 2. Oh, one of my 0 is 2.319. So now let's move over to the second value. We're going to do second, trace 0, move it all the way across to right around there, press enter, keep on moving it, press enter, and our second point is going to be 5.201. Okay, now the second way, yeah, and now for the second one, this side, and now for the second one, what we're going to do is find the x value where the derivative of f of x is equal to 2. So I'm going to first of all, in y1, I'm just going to put in here. I'm going to put in my y1, 2, and here I'm just going to clear it, math 8, and I'm going to put in my function, which is fraction x over second division sign. That gets my e to the power of x, and I'm going to put my second x. Now I'm going to graph it. So that gets me this point. So I'm going to do second, trace, number 5, that gets my intersect. Oh.
That's what's left of.
There we go. Now let's graph it. Okay, so I can't do left bound. I have to do second trace 5 around there. Enter. Enter, and my point is negative 0.37. That's an 8, so I'm going to round it to 5. Okay, so that were the 2 calculator problems, and now we're going to do this one. So back to number 14. So about this problem, this one's going to take a lot of space. So I'm basically just going to copy that, and just basically move down. Let me just make a new page quickly, add a page. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to paste it here, make it bigger. Okay, let's get started. So this one's going to be a little bit of a long one. So to get the first derivative, it's just basic product rule. It's going to be, it's a natural log, so that's 1 over x. Let me just increase my size of the pencil. There we go. It's going to be 1 over x times sine x squared plus natural log of x times cosine parentheses x squared times 2x. There we go. Now, this is our first derivative. Now we're going to get the second derivative of this, which is, in this case, we could combine this, which would be sine over x squared. Let me erase that. Okay, so it's going to be sine over x squared over x plus, I'm going to move this 2x to the front. 2x times natural log of x times cosine parentheses x squared. Okay, the quotient rule for this first portion is going to be pretty simple, which is basically x times cosine x squared times 2x minus sine x squared times 1 because derivative of x is just 1. Don't forget that in quotient rule, all of that, all of our low DH minus high DL is over x squared in this case, or low squared. Now we're going to do plus. So how this is going to work is, first, we're going to take the derivative of this, multiply by this, then we're going to take the derivative, of this portion and multiply it by the 2x. If I am doing my work correctly. Okay. Oh wait, actually, I'm sorry. We're just gonna do, yes, we are gonna do that. Okay, let's get started. S'mores. Okay. Where's my pencil? There we go. Now it's gonna be 2, the derivative of 2x is 2 times natural log of x plus 2x natural log of derivative of natural log is going to be 1 over x, and that's our first half, and all this multiplied by cosine x squared. Now we're going to do subtract that by the derivative of this portion right here. I'm looking at the answer and you have to subtract it by the derivative cosine, which is sine x squared times 2x, and then you're just, oh, I see. So what we're doing is, in the first half, we got the derivative of this, right? And then multiplied by the cosine x squared. Then, we're basically getting the derivative of this, which is negative sine x squared times 2x, and multiplying that by this portion. And in this case, that's basically going to be times 2x times natural log of x. Now, what we're going to do from here is just combine. So, this first portion, I'm going to move this 2x to the front, which is going to make it be 2x squared cosine x squared minus sine x squared over x squared. Now, for this one, I'm just going to cancel this x's, so it's just plus 2, and I'm going to move this cosine x squared to the front. So it'll be plus cosine x squared, parentheses, 2 times natural log of x plus 2. And then with the last portion, I'm going to, let's see, what can I combine? I can combine the 2x, which are right here, into 4x squared. Don't forget to write the negative. So 4x squared natural log of x sine x squared, and since this is multiplication, the order really doesn't matter of these two. Okay, now let's see what we can do from here. Now we're going to distribute this cosine. Yeah, we're going to distribute this cosine squared into this portion. That's going to get us 2 cosine x squared. Yep, 2 cosine x squared. And then that's going to be times 2 natural log of x times cosine x squared. So that's our middle part. And on this one, what we could do is this x squared, we could divide it. Not divide, but basically just move it. So we could have it be 2x squared cosine x squared all over x squared minus sine x squared over x squared. So yeah, just give me a second to make sure if I'm doing it correctly, and which I am. Apparently there is a mistake on the answer key, but which I will solve right here. So this x squared and x squared can cancel. That gives us 2 cosine x squared minus sine x squared over x squared, and the answer for each just says x, which is incorrect. And I'm going to move this portion down, which is plus 2 cosine x squared times 2 natural log of x times cosine x squared. Now with this last portion, we just keep it like that. So what we can do now is bring that over, which is going to be negative 4x squared natural log of x sine x squared. Alright, so now what we can do is this and this can combine into 4 cosine x squared, and we could keep that portion, which is sine x squared over x squared times, and basically all of the things that's afterwards. So it's still going to be a plus, wait, when we distribute that, yeah, don't forget that we distribute that and there was a plus sign here. So we gotta carry that plus, bring the plus down, which is 2 natural log x cosine x squared, and minus 4x squared natural log of x sine x squared. There you go. So that's our final answer. And there's definitely not going to be anything like this on the test, but there you go. The long process of it. And what happened here is, I'm just going to explain what I did here to make sure everyone gets it. Since we have 3 terms, what we did was first got the product rule of this, and then that equated to this times cosine. Then we got the derivative of this portion, and then just multiplied that by this. So that's how we got this is the derivative of cosine x squared, and here we're multiplying it by 2x times natural log of x. So there's your answer. That's your f derivative 2. So there you go. That's your final answer.